Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about adding Quixel materials to our model inside of Unreal Engine. Now, in my last video, we talked about how to get that model into Unreal Engine. And if you made a model and you did it in Maya, my previous video, which is this one right here, setting up your materials on your model in Maya for Unreal Engine, I go over how to make sure we have appropriate materials to use, or appropriate material slots to use to be able to add those Quixel materials once we get it into Unreal Engine. If you like what you see, make sure you like my video and then subscribe to my channel. You can also watch those videos to get caught up. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. This is pretty much where we left off. We had our house inside of Unreal Engine. It looks very pastel in colors because of the automatic colors that Unreal used to fill these material slots that you see over here on the right hand side. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some materials from Quixel and fill these slots in, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about Quixel just a little bit. If you haven't downloaded or seen Quixel before, you can go to Quixel.com and you can create an account, use your Epic Games login, and you can log in for free and download and use all of the Quixel materials. As long as you use them inside of Unreal, you can use them for free. So Bridge is one of those methods that we can use to get those materials directly into Unreal Engine. You can also use Bridge for Maya and a bunch of other programs as well. But in this case, I'm going to demonstrate the Unreal Engine. So once you get in there, you get signed up, create an account, you can download it for free, download it, and it'll be an app that's installed on your computer, and it'll look like this. Okay, and you'll probably have to sign in again for that as well. Now, Bridge is pretty simple. It's a depository for over 14,000, almost 1,500 high-resolution scanned images and objects. So we have 3D assets. So if you click on that, they actually have rocks, avocados, all kinds of different props. I mean, it's all kinds of insane stuff on here. You can see buildings, food, historical. So if you were looking for some place for some really high resolution, highly detailed models, this is a place you can go to get those. There's industrial, interior, all kinds of things. There's also plants. So all kinds of different plants that you can come in and get. But what we're going to talk about are what's called surfaces today. Okay, and these surfaces are these high resolution scanned textures that we can use. They're actually materials because they have all of their different maps for it. Displacements, they have the albedo, displacements, roughness maps, normal maps. So quite a bit comes with these. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick something. I'm going to show you the process. I'll do it a couple times so you can see it, and then that'll end this video, and we'll move on to the next thing. But you can then, once that's done, you can just apply that same process over and over again to get all of your materials in. So what I'm going to look for is I'm going to do the outside of the house first, okay? And you can see that by looking at surfaces, they're all broken down into all kinds of different topics here, categories. So I'm going to pick stone, and this cobblestone's kind of nice, trending. Let's see here. So we can go through, and there is just dozens of stuff to pick in here. And I want kind of a rough outside look to my house, so make it look kind of rustic. And cobblestone might be nice, but they're kind of small. I've used this one before. That was in the demo picture, and I know how it's going to come out. So I can go ahead and demonstrate this one without any issues, I think. So we'll go ahead and click on the download. So there's a couple different ways to do this, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So what we need to do is we also need to make sure we have the plugin installed in Unreal Engine. And since I just did a refresh on Unreal Engine and also on Bridge, I need to make sure I have that plugin. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on this particular material. And when I do that, over here comes this port. It opens up, and you can see what the material looks like. A lot of different details. You can go into your settings. You can pick what resolution you want for download or for also for export. And since I've already downloaded it, it says export here, but we need to set this up first. We can get there from two different ways now. There's this little cog down here. If I click on that, and also up here under edit and under settings, or under export settings down here at the bottom, sorry. So export settings. So I'm going to go ahead and select export settings, and what I want to do is it's going to go into my Unreal Engine. It's going to go into this engine version. And this is where I need to make sure I have the plugin location. So I'm going to click the folder. And I'm going to find my install of Unreal Engine. Okay. And it is under Epic Games. Down here under the engine. And then we want to go into the engine again. Usually don't have that many folders for it. Into the engine, and the instructions are right here. So you make sure you find your engine plugins. So we want to go into the plugins. I'm going to select that and select that folder right here. And it's going to go ahead and ask me, do I want to install the plugin? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, install the plugin. And there it goes. It's installed. So now the next thing I want to do is go to my default project. Now the weird thing about this, and I don't know if they fixed it, but it pretty much whatever your project is open is going to go to. So this, I'm not sure what this really does anymore. It used to make sure that went into the specific project, but it goes into the open project. But just to follow up, I'm going to click on it, find where this particular project is located, which is in my Unreal Engine projects. And this was the model demo right here. And we want to put it into our content folder. So I'm going to select the content folder and hit select. And that populates right down here. So now once that's done, hit the little back arrow there, brings you back to here. Two different ways to export it. As you saw, there was a little download option here, and there's a download option here when you haven't downloaded a material. But with this one already downloaded, we can export it from here, or we can export it from here. So you don't even ever need to go back into this window unless you want to see what the material looks like, or you want to change some of your resolutions for your export or your download resolutions as well. So I'm going to go ahead and select export. I'm going to export it as 8K. And okay, so we got this error. See this right here, 13.429. So that's a good thing that popped up, because that happens quite a bit. And there's an easy way to fix it. Go back over here to edit and go into your settings. Basically, it wants to go to port 13.429, but for whatever reason, this area right here populated with the wrong port. So basically you just go in there, put in the right port, hit enter, you can close this out. Now let's go ahead and try it. We hit export. It should be saying exporting successfully. And then if I move this out of the way, and if I did this right, and the plugin is correct, we should start seeing it populate over here. And sometimes that does not happen. All right, so give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and pause and try to work through what happened. It could be the plugin didn't get installed correctly, and so I need to find out if that's the case, or there may be something else happening. Okay, we're back. I'm not exactly sure what happened. All I did was close Bridge and close the project and reopen it. But what should happen is you should see it importing like this, and I'm not sure why my entire Unreal Engine screen went black, but we'll figure that out in a minute once it's done importing. So you'll see that it's importing here, and we'll get this little pop-ups down here. And depending on the complexity of the material, depending on the complexity of the material, it may go ahead and take a while to download, but it looks like it downloaded pretty quick. And now let's go ahead and figure out what is happening. It looks like none of my project is actually here. That's interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and pause again, close Unreal Engine, and try one more time. Okay, so we've got it all sorted out. Turns out that it just didn't open up the scene. Got it figured out, and we're back on track again. So you can see sometimes things don't go as planned, and you're going to have to kind of work through those and figure them out. That's okay. That's what we're here for, right? All right, so now what's done is put a folder in here called Megascans, and if you double click on it, go to your surfaces and then the rock, and you can see that here it is right here. I'm not sure how good this looks. It doesn't look like it's supposed to, but we're going to go ahead and try this out anyway. So what I'm going to do first is, because I'm going to be making changes to these different materials, this is what's called an instance right here. Okay, so if I hover over it, you can see that there in the name at the very end it says INST. This is an instance. That's what we're going to use to make adjustments and changes to this particular material when we put it on our object. You can see that when I open it up and full scale over here on the right hand side under details, we have all these little buttons, and we'll go over some of these and how we're going to use it to adjust this particular instance. But I want to leave this one the way it is, especially since I'm going to be making adjustments for that particular material on 4 different walls. I have 4 different materials assigned to this outside wall, outer wall, there we go, exterior wall. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm going to find all those and we're going to put this onto it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 4 copies of this. I'm going to select it, and you can do it by hitting Control W, and it'll duplicate it. And I'm going to take the one off the name of the instance at the end, leave it instant at the end, and I'm going to go ahead and name this M underscore for material. And what I want to do is I want to name it to where this is going to go on this house. And in this case, this is going to be my outer wall, and it's going to be front. Okay. And then I'm going to hit enter because it's an instance. It should pick that up like there because I left the INST at the end. And I'm going to do that 3 more times. Another way to do it is you can right click on it and use duplicate here. And again, this is going to be my M underscore outer wall. And this will be, I'll make this one back, and INST at the end. Okay. And then I'm going to do that 2 more times for the left and right side. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just click on it, Control W. I'm going to call this M underscore outer wall right, and then INST at the end. Okay, and then I guess if I did this the smart way, I would duplicate this one right here, Control W, and all I have to do is change right to left instance, and there we go. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to select this house. I'm going to pick the outer wall one first, and I'm going to apply this directly to the mesh. Another way we could do it is we could, right here in our scene, I could apply it directly to these particular sections right here. But I'm wanting to make this a little bit more permanent, so when if I ever export this house, when I go to do that, it would actually take the materials with it, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to double click on this static mesh and bring that back up. And where'd it go? There we go. Helps to actually click a little bit better on it. And oh, it's right there in front of me. All right, so now we've got that selected. What I want to do is I'm going to pull this tab down just a little bit. I'm going to expand this out just a little so I can see what's happening. Oops, not that. There we go. I'm going to pull this down a little bit and shrink this down so I can see the names here. And you can see that as I start to expand this, right here, here's my outer wall, my M outer back wall, right wall. All right, so this is my right wall. I've got one that says right down here. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that on here, my right outer wall. My instance for the right wall is right there. And that should go onto the wall. And we can see that it's really, really big. But we'll come back and we'll start to play around with these instances here in a second. So that's the outer wall. Let me go ahead and I think just outer wall is my front. That is. This is my left. So I wanted to find, oh, there's my back wall right there. So front, back wall. And where is my left wall? There it is. Oh, see, okay. All right, and there's my left wall. All right, so now everything has got some textures on it. We're going to go ahead and open up the front one. We'll mess around with the front one first. If we take a look in our scene, our house also has them applied to it. So we could actually now just go ahead and, I'll just park this up here for a minute. We can do it here in our scene. Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Let's see out this way a little bit. Yeah, it's really fighting me today. All right, so now we can kind of see what's happening, and I'm going to move this over this way. I don't really care what that circle looks like so much, but I do want to see this. So here we have all of our different controls. We can control things like the color of the texture, the metallicness of it, the specularness of it, the roughness, the normal. But what we want is right up here towards the top. It says global, and we have this one called tiling offset right here. Okay. So we hit the down arrow on that tiling offset, and you can see that we have these here, but they're all grayed out still. We can't change anything. We're going to go ahead and hit that little button right there, and we're going to adjust the tiling here. So I'm going to probably, I think, maybe try out 10, just to really shrink that down quite a bit. And which one do I have here? This is the front. That's why we couldn't see anything happening. Let's take a look at the front. There we go. All right. So on the front, those are still kind of large. I think I'm going to go with 15. Okay. And as we get the number bigger, these get smaller. And I'm still thinking I want to push that maybe a little smaller. Something like that maybe. I think that looks pretty good. And they look like believable sized bricks. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just park this one up here because we're going to come back to that. Don't forget to save whatever you do. And again, right here, I need to save that as well. These need to be saved individually. You can also go to File, Save All if you got a bunch of them to save. All right, so this is one of the other sides. I went with 20 on my scale, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this as being the left side maybe. And since I know that I want to change all these anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and do it blindly from here. I'm going to hit the down button, turn it on. I'm going to hit 20. Okay, and then save it. Go back to my scene and do the same thing for the back. I'm going to go ahead and tile it. 20 and 20. Okay, and save it. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the next one, the last one here, which is the right one. Now we could have done this with the original copy that we made and then copy this, but we may want to be able to adjust these individually as well. But let's see how they look on our house right now. They should be of the same scale. They are, but this is why we have these as individual materials, because when we wrap it, sometimes they don't actually line up correctly. And we can see that right here. So this is another thing about that instance that is going to help us. So we're going to want to move the walls around a little bit. It doesn't show up so much over here because we have these pillars on the side here, which kind of work out. But if we really wanted to, we zoom in, we can see that they're off a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line up the front one to this one right here. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to pull the front instance right here, pull it down. And right here, you notice there's underneath the tiling and offset, we have this offset. This is for the X and this is for the Y. So X and Y for the actual surface of the UV. So this is X is going to move left and right, okay? And then the Y is going to move up and down. And we can kind of line that up so it looks visually correct at least. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and rotate around, and I'm going to do the back one next. So I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. I'm going to select the back one and do that same thing. I'm going to select the Y, which is this one right here. I'm going to rotate, I'm going to slide it left and right with my mouse. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm hovering over it, and I am moving it to the, holding down the left mouse button, and I'm moving the mouse left and right until I can kind of get these to line up decently. We may not get it perfect because of the way these are all cut. We can also may want to move this one this direction too until we find a good good pattern that'll work, and it's kind of hard to tell from this angle. That's looking like. So again, maybe move it up and down a little bit until we find a brick that's about the same size as this one and facing the right direction. And that's it right there. I think we have a match. Oops, move it off there. Okay, then as I pull this in, come back here and adjust this a little more. There we go. So now we got a pretty decent match. It's gonna be about as close as we can get that. So now I'm gonna move this one out of the way. Do the same thing for this wall. It's not too far off. It's not actually that bad. It's not great. So we're gonna go ahead and try to see if we can make it a little bit better. This one's a little bit off from there. I think it could go maybe down to here, or maybe we have to slide this. So this is the left wall. This is the left wall. Hopefully it is, because I just did all that work on the other wall. It is not. Control Z, put that back. That must be the right wall. All right, let's try that again. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up and down. I'll find something that kind of lines up. And then, should have just left it where it was, I guess. Let's go that in a little bit. That's pretty good. We got some bricks that aren't going to perfectly line up just because of the way this model is, but you know, maybe we can do a little better. All right, I think that's as good as it's going to get there. And then if we take a look back here on the front, it's fairly well lined up. All right, so that is how to get your Quixel material on there. And this is actually now set into our static mesh. So if I go back in here and go to my content and then into my models, my house, and I look for the walls of the house, which are right there, you'll see that in this image, it now has the textures applied to it. The materials are actually on this particular house, okay? And it's going to be saved that way, so if we ever exported it, these materials would go with it. Now, if this was not something you wanted to do, what you would do then is you would just apply them here to the house selected, and you would put them over here on the right-hand side, and that would only apply those materials to the house in the scene itself, not to the rest of the model, which would then keep this original blank look down here. So keep that in mind. You need to make a decision about how you want to have your materials applied. I can demonstrate that real quick with one more. I'm going to go ahead and do another one real quick. I'm going to go ahead and close these. Now that actually I'm going to save these as we close them. And again, we can also do File, Save All. That'll save everything. I can close that, close this. Now, let's see here. We're going to go ahead and I'll pick the roof this time. So on the roof, if I just apply the material to the roof here, so I'm going to bring bridge back up. And let me close this. I think that's putting some undue pressure on my computer. So we're going to go back in to surfaces, and they actually have a lot of roofing stuff, so we can click on roofing and pick something that kind of goes age appropriate. Maybe this weathered wood and slate. So I'm going to go ahead and download that. All right, it's downloaded. So now I can just export it from right here. I'm going to click the little export button. It should be exporting like it's supposed to. And there we go, it's importing. If we look for the model down here, well, actually I can't while it's importing. So we'll give it a minute. I am going to go ahead and pause while we're waiting for this. This may be one that takes a while to import. Okay, so we're back. Now, I have my roof selected, and if I wanted to just put the materials here on my roof, but not down here in the model, I would go to my content. Let's go into Megascans, surfaces. Here's my weathered wood slate. I would just take this and find the slot for that particular roof, and in this case I'm going to put it on roof main, and as you can see it's very large right now. So again, let's go ahead and I'm going to undo that by hitting this little yellow button right there. It undoes what you just did, sets it back to default rather. Sometimes default is not what you want it to be though. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate this one, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this my m_roof_instance. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and apply that to my roof main, open that up, and I'm going to go ahead and scale this down by turning that on right there. Let's go with 10 and 10, and that gets it close. But see, now it's off. We need to actually do a rotation of this particular one. So if you need to rotate a mesh, or a material rather, inside of Unreal Engine, you do it right here at global rotation. But it's not by degrees like you thought it would be. This actually uses the decimal. So I want to rotate this 90 degrees, so that would be 0.25, right? So 0.25. And it rotates it, and fortunately it rotated it in the right direction. If I needed to rotate it so that it was completely the other direction, I would have gone 0.75, right? So anyway, the other thing to notice is that this roof, my shingles are going the right direction on one side and they're on the wrong direction on the other side. So this is a case where we would need to apply additional materials like we did on the side here, so that the roof would have material on this side and a material on the back side, so that we could adjust it. We can't do that here. We can do that back in Maya. So what we would have to do would be open our project up in Maya, and we would apply material by using the faces method like I showed you in the last video, in the materials video, actually 2 videos ago, using Maya materials, and we would put an additional material there which would give us an additional material slot here, and then we would be able to apply 2 different instances so that we could manipulate them separately. Because right now what's happening is this is wrapping all in one direction, which makes sense. Same with the dormer roofs. That would have to be done with the dormer roofs as well. And if I select one of these dormer roofs, this one does not have it done either. So again, those would have to be something that we would have to do for each one of these. So just keep that in mind when you start laying out your materials. As you're doing that, that might be something you need to go back in and fix. And I'm going to go ahead and pause right now. I'm going to pull up Maya, and I'm going to demonstrate that method real quick and how to re-import it so that we can fix that. Okay, so now we're back. I've got the Maya project open with that same house. So here's my roof, and you can see it's got just one material, and the same with the dormer roofs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select my roof. Right, and then I'm going to open up my UV editor since I already have it UV'd out. Open this over here, and for my roof, that's this one right here, I'm going to go UV shell, select it, and that is definitely the part I want. So what I need to do is I need to find that line, that dividing line, which is actually that edge right there. So if I go to edge, click on it, you see that that's this edge right here. Okay, so this side should be one material and this other side should be a different material. So I'm going to go to face, And I'm going to go ahead and select all of this right here. And then I'm going to assign new material. I only need to assign it to one side because the other side already has material on it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select Arnold, AI standard surface, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a name. So this will be my M_roof back. Okay. Okay, so that's the roof back. Yeah, and I can do the same thing with the dormers while I'm here. So I'm going to go ahead and select one of the dormers. So we're going to go ahead and go to object mode, select the dormer. Now, these are going to be pretty simple to do. And I'm going to go ahead and do it to just one dormer. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I need to do it over here, right face. So it should be that section right there. And it's going to be that outer section right there. And it also should include, okay, so it should include those additional pieces there as well. I can select them there or here. Just do that. And there we have it all selected. So now I'm going to go ahead and assign a new material. Arnold AI standard surface. And I'll just call this M_dormer. And it's the right side of the dormer, so I'll just call it dormer right. Okay. And again, we could do that to all of the different ones. We can also apply color to it, but it's gray. It's different than the color that's on there right now. So let me go ahead and you know what? I think each of these dormers, I'll just do it with the one dormer, and we can then delete the other ones and just use this one over and over again. So we don't need to do that with all these dormers. So we go ahead and close this. I'm going to select the roof. We go back to object mode. I want to select the roof, and I also want to select this dormer right here. Okay, so now with them selected, I'm going to go right click. Nope, not going to do that. I'm going to go to File, Export Selection. Okay, I want to export it as an FBX just like last time, but I'm just going to call this roof _ dormer. Maybe I'll put an and in there so I know it's both. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and export those. All right, so with that done, I'm going to go ahead and minimize Maya. Minimize Maya. We probably could close it, but just in case we need to pop back into it real quick. And now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to my content folder, and I'm going to go to my models, into my house folder, and I'm going to create an additional folder in here. And this one I'm just going to call model updates, because this may not be the only one that we update. Okay, so now I'm going to open that up. Find my file folder. Yes, I closed it. And find my model. And then find that roof and dormer. Click and drag it in here. And again, no collisions. I'm going to import all. And there we go. There it comes in with all of its additional materials as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close that file folder. All right, so now we have these. We need to get them into our model here. All right. So what we're going to do is, oh yeah, the glass. Okay, we haven't actually talked about making the glass clear either. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to do the roof. Okay, so that would be this right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that in. You can see that it's much smaller and it's in the wrong spot. So the first thing is we know that when we click on the roof, we scaled it up to 7.5 for all three. So I'm select it again, and I'm just going to go ahead and make it the right scale, 7.5. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and drag that over out of the way. The next thing we want to do is we want to select the original roof. Right up here where it says location, I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy that place for it. And then I'm going to go ahead and select, I'm going to hit delete and delete that original roof. I'm going to select this roof, and right up here next to location, I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste that in there, and it's going to pop my roof right on to where it needs to go. And then I'm going to do that same thing for this first dormer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drag this dormer in. I'm going to make it the right size. Right? Notice this offset. I'm going to leave it that way because this is the way the model is set up when it comes in from Maya. So it's going to correspond correctly here. If I were to change this to a center point, we could cause some issues right now. So I'm going to select that dormer, right click next to location. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to delete that dormer, select this dormer, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste it, and it should pop right on. Alright, so now these other dormers, I'm going to do that same thing, except I'm going to duplicate this one. Okay, so I'm going to have it selected. I'm going to hit Control W to duplicate it, and then I'm going to just pull it off a little bit so we can see it. I'm going to duplicate it again. So now I've got 3 of these. I'm going to select that dormer. I'm going to copy its location. And this might actually not come out quite right because these dormers were in this original location, but let's see how this goes. So I'm going to hit delete, select that one, right click, paste it, and yeah, it's not going to work. So we're going to go ahead and just manually put it in there, and we can do the same thing with this one. And of course we'll have to zoom in a little bit, make sure it's all lined up. Since these are a different part of the model, they should be close, but they may not be perfect. You can always come back in and fine tune it later on. Yeah, that one's off a little bit. Okay. See, that one's correct, so this one needs to go forward just a little bit. There's one issue with having the thing offset just a little bit, you know, to see what you're doing with it. Alright, good enough for now. So now, again, if I select the roof, I go back into my content, my mega scans, into my surfaces, my weathered roof. I am going to go ahead and this one right here, I'm going to copy this because this is that part of the roof. It's already scaled the way we want it. It's already rotated in the correct direction in one time. So I'm going to select it, hit Control W, and I am going to name this roof underscore back instance, and it's on capital back instance. There we go. So now for the front part of the roof, it should be roof main right there. So that is the front part right there. So it's going to go on roof main, and then this one is going to go up here onto roof back. And now we just got to rotate it around. So if I'm going to open this up, remember we rotated at 0.25 and we want it to go the opposite direction. So this should be 0.75. And if we take a look, it is. Then we can also actually kind of line up almost exactly correct. So there we go. Now we have the roof on that part of the house. The dormer will work the same way, and it's the same with the rest of the materials. Now the last thing I need to do before I let you out of here is these windows. Okay, They're not transparent anymore. When we first sent them over from Maya, they were, but they're not. But we can see we have this material right here called M Window 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and double click on that, and we're going to open this material up. And since this material applies to all the windows, this should, when we change this, fix our issue with all of the windows. Now what we want to do is we want to set up our opacity, but you can see it's grayed out right here. We can't put anything in there when it's grayed out. Over here under the materials, we find it, the blend mode right here, and it says opaque. Well, we want it to be translucent, so I'm going to select translucent, and now we have this opacity. It's still not see-through though. We need to fix that, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to right click right here, and we're going to type in the word CONST for constant, and right here we want this one at the very top, right underneath where the green highlight is. We want the one that says constant. We get this little green constant with this little node. It has a 0 in it, so if you check over here for the value, it says 0. So I'm going to take and hover over this. See, I get how my mouse changes to that little crosshair. I'm going to click and drag and drop it right there onto the opacity, and if we take a look at our material, it's going to turn clear. Now it's totally invisible. We don't want that for glass. We want to have a little bit of a visibility. I find using 0.2 works pretty good for that. It gives us a little bit of visibility. You can kind of see it, but it's kind of got that pinkish look, and that's because of the pastel color that was assigned to it. So if we select this parameter right here, and inside the parameter there are these default values, okay? So this is actually a vector. It's got a 3-coordinate vector. We can change these RGBs, or we can just click right here on this little color thing, and we can select a different color that might be more appropriate. So say that we have a slight tint on our windows, right? So maybe we can come down here and kind of find a gray that works a little bit better. I'm going to push this down into the white scale so that it's a little bit more gray to choose from. Slight tint in it, maybe something like that. And then I'm going to say OK. And you can see that pops out of there. We should get this texture back in here, and this should have a slight grayish tint to it. You can kind of see that. I'm going to hit save. Okay, when I save it, it's going to apply that to the material. And there we go. So now if we look, all of our windows should now have that slight gray transparent look, and you can actually see inside of them, because we have that same material assigned to all of them. All right. That is going to be that for this video. So that's basically how you're going to put materials on. Again, if you like what you saw, please like my video, subscribe to it, to my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks again for watching.